Hello, this is Pastor John Harris of International Living Word Cathedral, where that word is truth. I'm so excited that you're able to join and listen in to our latest sermon and see how God is moving in our ministry. We believe in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Now join us for our latest sermon.
Well, this is the fourth Friday, or fourth Sunday of the month, so we do need to make sure we're expedient to be out of the building by 12:30. Dee, what time is it now? About 5 past 12? I want to make sure the kids have a chance to share what they're doing back there. You know, the message that, a series of messages that I've been doing called Bring Forth the New Man, we've already been experiencing that message this morning. Before I ever preached it, or before I ever even get to this part of the service, I just felt like the Lord saying, there's great intensity within the Spirit. And if the saints will push into that intensity, well, we do it during worship, and we do it during communion, He'll show Himself strong. Pastor John always used to say, let's let the Lord have His way. Let's let Him do what He wants to do. And I felt like He's already done that this morning.
Well, it is so. It is so. It is so.
And Mita, I want you to know this. When we set that up for you, because we're going to set it up for you, but I don't want you to feel pressured by it. I want it to be when the Spirit begins to move and you start to feel that creativity and those pictures begin to come to you. That's when I want you to move on it. I don't want you to just feel like you're obligated to have to do it. You still have free will. And I want you to give Him a free will offering. That's what I want it to be. A free will offering. Something that you want to do for Him, that you want to paint what He wants you to paint. That would add beauty to His people. Because as you paint, the anointing that's in the doing of the painting, in the work, when Paul would go out to his work and do his tent making, he would be just making tents, but the anointing would be get onto his clothing. And they could take his physical parchment and give it to people and they would get delivered. Because it was just in what he was doing. Does this make sense? It's in the presence of joy, in the presence of the Lord, there's fullness of joy. There's transformational glory. I was going to talk about this morning about how Paul talks about we are ministers of a new covenant. A weightier, heavier covenant that has the ability to push people beyond where they've been before, Lady Llewellyn.
Thank you, Lord.
And Paul says, the way that I preach the gospel, the way that I live my life is by drawing from that. And he says, I use great boldness of speech. But in that great boldness, he's talking about a force or an intensity with which he lives his life. And that's why you can help people no matter what day of the week it is. It's not just on Sunday when we come together. It's every day of the week. But there has to be a pressing into that intensity. And when you come out of that intensity, it's like releasing it. Because there's a Greek word that actually says it's the parousia is an intensity, it's a force, and it's the Spirit of God doing His work. And Paul talks about the Spirit of God is in us doing His work. And the gospel that I preach to you is not with words of wisdom, but things that are taught by the Spirit. So let me just talk a couple minutes. Let me just read this passage. Listen to this. And it came to pass.
Where are you?
I'm in Joshua. Joshua 5. Verse 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was at Jericho that he lifted his eyes up and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, Are you for us or for our adversaries? So he said, No. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped and said to him, What does my Lord say to his servant? And it came to pass. It's coming to pass. Ever since Pastor John passed on, ever since he's been translated to heaven, the Lord's been speaking this same message to me in my daily devotional. And my devotional is, it's from this book. It's not from just a little daily reading. It's, I devour this because I love it, because I love Him. And as I devour it, He keeps bringing me back to Joshua. And it shall come to pass.
Thank you, Lord.
The things that have been said about this ministry shall come to pass.
Yes, and amen.
And one of the reasons that's going to come to pass is because the Lord Himself has got His sword drawn. And He's protecting us.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
We, as part of the congregation, probably had no idea how much Pastor John was holding back in his devotion to the Lord from trying to come on this church. I've felt a weight these last few weeks of what he was up against coming up against me. But I see the Lord with His drawn sword. And He says, no weapon forged against you is going to prosper.
That's right.
I am taking you to the promised land. And you shall see me standing there with my sword in my hand.
Wow.
He says, I'm neither for you nor your adversary, but as the captain of the Lord of hosts, I've come. Because He's doing the bidding of the Lord. Because that's who He is. And we have what's called a righteous cause. Plead our cause, O Lord, with those who strive with us, and fight against those who fight against us. You see, one of the things that I believe Paul used to do, because all they had was the Old Testament. They didn't have the writings of the New Testament until Paul began to write. But they had the New Covenant. They had the fulfillment of what Jesus Christ did. And they were living in it. Even though they only had the old, they were living in the new. And Paul began to understand that. And he said, I'm trying to take hold of who's taken hold of me. Because if we can get a hold of Him, the way He's gotten a hold of us, we will be the prophesied kingdom in the earth. We will be the kings, and we will be the priests that He's called us to be. So it has come to pass. I almost brought that large sword with me this morning because I was feeling it so strongly. And the thing that I want you to understand is that sword that He has drawn for us, He has drawn it in justice. And He is taking off the head of the serpents, Lady Luella.
Yes, Lord.
He is swinging His sword through this valley, removing the heads of those serpents that are down here.
Yes, sir.
And He is clearing the way for us to march up out of this place.
Yes.
To go to the place that He's prepared for us. Because I said that weeks and weeks ago. If I go to prepare a place for you, I will come and receive you to myself, that you may be where I am. I'm telling you, He just keeps repeating this in me. As much as I want to move on with 2 Corinthians 3, we can't lose sight of where we're going. We can't lose sight of what He's given to us, what Pastor John poured out on us while he was here for the last several years. What he began, God is going to finish. So we have to keep our eyes on the one who has this sword. Because there are serpents all around this place. But that sword is swinging like this. And every time a serpent's head comes up, he chops it off. Because he is the captain of the Lord of hosts. He is the highest commander. No one can stand against him. And no one can stand against us as a church. If God is for us, who can be against us? Many will oppose what God's doing with us. But in the book of Acts it says, hang on a second, guys. If their purpose and their activity is of God, you won't be able to stop it. Because what you'll find is you'll be fighting against God. So you would be wise to leave those people alone. Do you see what he says about us? He said, do my prophets no harm. Abimelech, that's what he said to him. He said, you're messing with my prophet. Don't touch him. Because it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. I mean, I'm not trying to stand up here and sound arrogant to you. I'm just saying this is the confidence that God instilled in me through Pastor. I do have a double portion of His Spirit. There are things that in my own heart that I didn't experience while Pastor was here. But since he's gone on, those things have come to pass in me. They've grown in my heart. His work was not in vain. And many opposed him. And many will continue to oppose us. But it shall come to pass. So if I ever get to move on in 2 Corinthians, I will. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. And if that's where I'm at, then I'm hoping that's where you're at. Because here's my prayer for us as a church during the week. Lord, I want them to be where I am. I want to be where you are, and I want them to be with me where I am with you. I want to be unified. We have to have unification here. We have to have a union. We have to be all marching in the same direction. You remember that old hymn, Onward Christian Soldiers, marching as to war with the cross of Jesus that goes on before? Christ our royal banner. Jesus. He's our royal master. Jesus is bent on war right now. He's a man of peace. But when he speaks, they are for war. I remember when I told Pastor John that. I said, Pastor, he called me one day when I was in Issaquah. And he asked how I was doing. I said, I'm doing good, Pastor. I said, but you keep coming to my heart. And this passage from Psalm 120, look it up sometime. It says, I am a man of peace, but when I speak, they are for war. When Pastor John would speak, he was speaking into the war. He was a man of peace, but yet his words would go out, and they would do warfare. Because he was doing what Jesus is doing. He's clearing the path for us. He's already gone to the place to prepare where we're going to go. And I hope that he takes us there before you choose to leave. If you do choose to leave. I hope that you get to see the fulfillment of what Pastor John's vision was. That's what my hope is. That we get to go to that. I'm talking about a physical building, guys. A place that's already set up. That's already equipped. A place that has been vacated because, get this, they didn't remain in the truth. So God has said, I'm going to repurpose this place for them. Because they have remained in my truth. And I have promoted them because they have promoted me. See, it's just all stuff. God's just continuing to bring it back. This is all stuff I've said week after week after week. It's just like he's compiling it. He's just adding to it. He's building it. He is the cornerstone. We started with that song this morning. He is the cornerstone. And he's building us as living stones on that cornerstone.